Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Tracy Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Ow.
What's up? This is Elia Einhorn. Welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined from Chicago by
Josh Modell. What's up, Elia?
Hey, great to have you back on the podcast, man.
My pleasure.
Listeners, we have a very cool show for you today. Dilly Dally's Katie Monks in conversation with Tokyo Police Club's Dave Monks. Did you realize that the last name is the same? These are siblings.
Brother and sister, you mean?
How did you know, Josh? I just want to set up this podcast by sharing a quote that Katie drops a few minutes in. I don't know if this is a therapy session or a podcast.
Awesome. Always like the danger, right, with siblings where they're going to kind of go off. But I think this one is a nice mixture of talking about their music and talking about their relationship.
It really is. And we get to hear so much about their new records. Both bands have just dropped new albums. For Dilly Dally, that's Heaven, and Tokyo Police Club have just dropped TPC. Now, Josh, I first heard Dilly Dally's name in 2015. I had not heard their music, but I had one of those magical South by Southwest moments that do still exist, despite what you might hear, where you go to see a band play, in this case, Downtown Boys, and a band that opens up absolutely fucking blows you away. I could not believe how good Dilly Dally were on stage. There's some grunge, there's some punk.
Yeah, and maybe like a little bit of a goth swirl happening every now and again.
For sure. And Katie's voice is beautiful and songwriting is very, very powerful. Now, Katie's a couple years younger than Dave, and she watched Tokyo Police Club take off. She watched her brother become a rock star, all the while harboring her own dreams for a band. Now, she and her high school friend Liz Ball had a lot of confidence, man. They were convinced that they were going to be the next Oasis, so much so that before their own band even officially started, they each got Dilly Dally tattoos.
Yeah, that's not messing around. I'm going to get lottery winner tattooed on my arm and see if I can live up to that the same way she did.
Listeners, check out one of the standout tracks on one of the standout records of this year. From Dilly Dally's new record, Heaven, this is Sober Motel.
What an awesome song. And moving on to Tokyo Police Club, they've been a band for a lot longer than Dilly Dally. They've been making music since Dave Monks was somewhere around 18.
Right. Tokyo Police Club formed back in 2005. Dilly Dally didn't release their first record till a decade after that.
So Tokyo Police Club just released their fourth album, TPC, sort of almost self-titled, but not quite. Here's an excellent track from that called Simple Dude.
Dancing in the rain, 'cause I'm just a simple dude with an ordinary mind. I want you in your body, hold it next to mine, 'cause everything you do is a new sensation. My eyes, your eyes, pulling me in closer. My hands, your hands, I've been feeling long.
For today's talk, Katie and Dave holed up in Dine Alone Studios in their hometown of Toronto and chopped it up about a lot of things. And listeners, this episode gives you a little peek behind the curtain as far as the Talkhouse podcast process. Now, sometimes artists or their teams will ask for prompts, things that we'd be interested in hearing the artist talk about. And we'll always send those ideas with the caveat, these are conversations to be led by the artists. These are just some ideas they can use if they'd like. Well, Dave and Katie decided to use them as an outline for their conversation. And I have to say, their talk gets pretty deep. We hear all about their upbringing and how it influenced their artistry.
And they talk about how they help each other, which I thought was really interesting. I think at one point they basically say, well, I wouldn't have made this record without your influence, and I wouldn't have made this record without your influence. So essentially they're saying, you know, they're really a support system for each other, which is nice to hear.
It really is. And you know, both Dilly Dally and Tokyo Police Club have been through some rough times in the last few years. both bands seriously considered splitting up before recording their newest records.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to note that there's a song on each record that's sort of about getting your mojo back in a way. There's a song on the Dilly Dally record called Believe, which basically says believe in yourself over and over. And then there's a song on the TPC record called Ready to Win, which is basically like, here's all the ways I've fucked up, including I've Dave singing about how he's fucked up his relationship with his family, but that now he's kind of in it to win it, for lack of a better phrase.
Now, Josh, that sort of leads into this very cool thing that happened with this podcast that you and I did not anticipate as it was coming together, which is that Dave and Katie actually dropped some pretty cool news, which is that they've been collaborating on a record.
Yeah, and it's funny because at some point they kind of talk about how they don't play each other their music when they're in the process of making it, but then they say, oh, well, maybe we should just make this the world premiere in a way of our new thing, which, as they told us, has no name and no album title, and is definitely a departure for both of them.
It really is. And Josh, I was so excited when they sent us a track to premiere on today's episode. So listeners, after Dave and Katie's conversation, keep it locked because we are going to drop the world premiere of their track, which is currently untitled. It's a file called Track 24. But first, we hear from Dave and Katie all about the life lessons they picked up from those two kids down the street and learning about religion through The Simpsons. Josh, we roll the tape?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, we're sitting at the Dine Loan office, the Dine Loan Records office. It's me and Katie. Hi, Katie.
What's up?
And we're on Joel's couch. And we're drinking coffees.
Coffee.
Mmm.
Sweet. What are the questions, Dave?
Okay, here's the first question. What about your upbringing fostered or inhibited your creativity?
I feel like we were always congratulated for being unique, I guess, or like having
Special.
opinions
Yeah.
about stuff. Fuck, I don't know. I remember Mom used to hang out with us and draw.
Mom was a great drawer.
Yeah. But actually, I think what was really big was that you and I like got really angry at other kids when they would copy us.
That's so true.
And I feel like there was definitely times when I would copy your creative ideas. Like I would copy like the way you drew dinosaurs or the kind of stuffed animals you wanted to buy and stuff.
Well, I was so good at drawing dinosaurs, though.
You were really good at drawing dinosaurs, but then I learned how to be good at drawing dinosaurs through that.
That's true.
But I feel like once I learned how it felt when other people copied me, it was a big, heavy topic of conversation.
Like
I
when
think, at the house.
we bought those wolf...
Yak backs.
Oh, yak backs.
Okay, fine. There was totally like these two awesome kids who lived down the street, and they were both 1 year younger than both of us, and it was like an older brother and younger sister, and they copied so many things that we did because we did have the best ideas.
They were like our childhood growing up reciprocal friends.
They were our friends, but they were also like our arch nemesis in a way.
And we had these stuffed wolves that we got from like Northern Getaway in the Upper Canada Mall. Newmarket. And we had these sweet wolves, and then they each bought the wolves, and then they each bought another wolf each. And then before we knew it, they had like a whole pack of these wolves. And even the names, like I remember mine was called Howler. And then they were like, oh, look at my...
Howlette.
Was that yours?
No, they had
one called Howlette. Yeah. I was like, this is blatant plagiarism.
Yeah, it got intense. I think like learning that at a young age that you can't, that intellectual property is, so easy to have stolen from you.
Yeah.
And there was something deep inside me that was like, this is fucking wrong. Like, this is immoral to steal my ideas. Like, every time I would have a cool idea to do something or, dress up as something for Halloween, it would be copied by someone else. And then our parents would always, well, just because you have great ideas and you should share your ideas.
I feel like they were more like, I feel like our friends' parents were more like, well, like, imitation is the highest form of flattery. And
our parents were more like, no, that's crazy. Like,
Really?
but then I copied you.
I don't know if this is a therapy session or a podcast. It's like a family therapy session.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our childhood.
Our parents are actually in the room right now. They just don't have microphones.
Seriously.
They have like those electric shock mechanisms beside them, like in The Simpsons, where they all sit around zapping each other in that like group therapy session.
Exactly.
I was talking with Dad about how The Simpsons, this is pretty off topic now, but it was like watching The Simpsons on Sunday night was like the end of the weekend. It was like the last hurrah.
It was on Sundays, which is like most families go to church on Sundays, but we would all watch The Simpsons.
Right, that was our religion.
And actually learn about Bible stories. Like the only way I knew about any Bible stories, like Adam and Eve and all that stuff, was through parodies on The Simpsons.
That's
The extent to which The Simpsons was a religion in our house is absurd. Like if you looked at our Christmas tree,
yeah.
it is all Simpson decorations
It's true. And The Simpsons trivia that we play,
that we play.
that Dad wails at, like he's so good. I'm really bad at that.
So the thing is about our parents is that they both work as computer programmers, like in IT and stuff at corporations, whatever.
Well, they're retired now.
They're retired now. Bless, which is wonderful that we can say that our parents are retired. It is so, like I feel really privileged to be able to say that. Whether my children will have that privilege, I'm not sure.
Right.
So they both actually didn't have jobs as artists, as musicians at all. And I think that that's why we were raised, to go back to the question,
Yes.
I think that is why we were raised and encouraged to be creative and be told you can do anything you want to do. Just do what makes you happy.
Well, I feel like they are hyper creative people, and it hasn't necessarily been expressed in their work or whatever. But they're like rule breakers to the core, and like they came from, you know, Ireland in the 80s, where there was a whole bunch of different social norms, and people expected, I think people expected less out of life than people do here in Canada. You know, they moved when we were tiny to the GTA, and they're artistic souls without being creators of, like, you know, books or music or carpenters or anything. But like, yeah, they are that type of personality. And so I think they really raised us to be like, go do it. Like, figure that thing out.
Yeah. And to go back to, you know, The Simpsons and how we were raised in that regard, like, I think a lot of that came from the fact that our parents left a country that was so religious, you know, and intertwined with the Catholic Church, with the government and all of that, like literally taught by priests and nuns. Like, and then as well, our dad is like really funny and would always perform for us.
We were his audience growing up.
We were his audience. So he really is, I think, a comedian at heart through and through. Like,
totally.
So
and when he sings, like, he's really good at rhyming and making up songs and stuff.
He's really good at improvising.
My name is Fred. I'm a sleepyhead. I like to spend my days in bed.
Genius.
That's a smash.
Did he write that?
Yeah.
Okay, that was lit. But yeah, I mean, like, yeah. So I think that we were encouraged, you know, to become, if we wanted to be a comedian, if we wanted to be a musician kind of thing.
Totally. Anything we did was like, I remember having the band over and we were in the garage and we were all in like grade 10. And I think it was like we were playing Ghostbusters, and Graham's dad and our dad came into the garage when we were done, and they were both just like flipping out, like, fantastic, that was amazing, like whatever our like, us murdering the Ghostbusters theme, and like it was felt so cool.
It's so weird. Someone told me recently that like, oh, your and David's parents must have really protected you from all of the judgment around your decision to become musicians.
Man, they totally did.
But I actually think that they didn't protect us from it so much as the fact that they were equally as romantic about the whole idea. I think that our parents were just as in it as we were, and they weren't protecting us from harsh criticism from their peers about how to raise their kids or whatever. I don't think they were
just like preparing us.
I think that they themselves were so in love with the idea as well. And they believed in us so blindly and naively, just as we believed that we could become superheroes.
Yeah, it takes so much. Actually, I think this is a good thing to talk about too, is like, I read creativity is allowing yourself to make mistakes and art is knowing which ones to keep. And I think that art is like this like stumbling process. And you need to have so much faith in yourself that you like wind up somewhere positive to go through that. It takes a huge amount of support. And I think it's pretty criminal how underrepresented it is that, you know, all these great things that exist in our culture don't come from, you know, single minds of genius creators. Like they just come from people who have a ton of support.
People who have a lot of support or that are okay with trial and error sometimes, you know, and okay with failing. I was talking to my friend recently. He was like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out, you know, what to do with my life. I guess he wants to start a new career path or something. And I was just like, yeah, I think you just have to be ready to try out some things and throw yourself in and not be good right away.
I think we were always
or
told
not
that
like it right away.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like we weren't expected to have a plan. It was just like, we're doing this. Okay, cool. Like it'll get figured out.
Do you feel like you could ever do that again with a different career?
It's hard now because like I was so naive about everything in the beginning, and like with this blessing, like it's amazing. Yeah, I could do it. Yeah, life is crazy. I could do it. It would be hard.
Like that same feeling of when you like are trying to learn how to play guitar and you have the blisters all over your fingers.
But honestly, like
that's what I think of when I'm like having to start a new thing all over. And I just think about the time spent when I was a teenager, just getting the skin on my fingers to become used to it so it wasn't literally painful.
Right. Or like overcoming stage nerves and that kind of thing for me was like.
Was it?
Yeah, big time.
Wow.
That was like learning how to be like how to engage the crowd or anything.
Wow.
But I also think that in another way, we are constantly starting over. Like every record I make, I'm like, fuck this. Maybe like we should just, I don't know. You're always restarting.
Yeah. Let's read another question. Because I feel like
we're restarting.
There needs to be some boundaries and themes here.
I think one thing that's cool to talk about is like, one question here is, do you bounce music from your new albums off each other? Which I think is like a pretty natural question for people to ask. And I think it's amazing how like so the answer is no. Like we don't share. It's almost like intentional. Like we don't share music. We don't share like what we're working on, and we're not the people we go to if we need input, because it allows I think if you're with me on this, like it allows our support for each other to be just purely based on like helping that person. I mean, I definitely feel like you helped me believe in myself. Like in writing this last Tokyo album, like I was going through my own process, but every day we'd talk, and whatever version of it was that day, it was just like, Dave, you got this. And like, whatever you're trying to say is valid, and like, you're going to get there, you know? And it wasn't like, is this chorus cool? It was just like,
it's more about helping each other through like the psychology of it or something. Like it's something so much just like giving each other the inspiration and energy to keep moving forward. Because I remember, so this new album for Dilly Dally was our first follow-up to the
Right, which is
debut, which took 6 years to write, or 6+ years. So this was the first time that I had the pressure, the timer on. And I just remember Skyping with you. You were in New York at the time. And just the look in your eyes of like so knowing this really unique experience that I was having, that most people in the world don't understand, that specific feeling of, okay, time to write a record now. After you've toured away all of the energy you have left in you, and the friendships in the band are kind of a bit of a question mark or a bit fragile at the time. You're a bit sick of each other from tour, and then I'm the kind of initial songwriter for Dilly Dally, and I was able to Skype with my brother, and I remember the look in your eyes of just kind of, Katie, this is tough, and it's okay that you don't know what it's going to be right now, and it's okay that you don't have a record ready right now, and this is a huge mountain to climb, and it's not going to be easy, but you just have to work on music every day, just the way you always have.
You have to find it again. It's like a different ball game, finding your voice once you're already out there.
Yeah, it's like such an illusion, that you think you get really good at a craft and now you're good at it.
Right, yeah.
But the thing is, with art, if you're a professional artist, I'd imagine that any professional artist would want to kind of one-up themselves from the last time, or they're in a different place in their lives and they want to represent something else and they want to challenge themselves. It's like the David Bowie quote where it's like, if you don't want to be too much in the shallow end of the pool or too much in the deep end. You want to be right where you just can't quite touch the bottom. And that's the amount of unfamiliarity that you would need in this kind of creative realm of your comfort zone versus the challenge of it.
Yeah, totally.
Jesus. I mean,
I think
what happened there?
One thing was like
tangent.
Well, I mean, here it's an unguided conversation. One thing that's like really, I always felt about you that like really inspires me is like, I would see you and like obviously, especially when Dilly Dally like kind of arrived, is like your dream, and like it's always been this way with you, even since like we were kids and you were like, I have magic powers. Like I definitely have magic powers, and like I haven't found them yet. But like,
God, I did believe that so sincerely.
But like your conviction and your belief in your dream is so invincible. Like to me, it just seems like fucking like it's Fort Knox, and the world for you, I feel like the world doesn't pull you off your path from your dream, like where you're going. To me, it seems like that. And like for me, I think I get sidetracked with other people, like what other people might want from me, or like trying to keep everybody happy. But watching you like follow this course, I think just like even watching that, like it wasn't even something that you said, probably it's just like watching that happen just has been a huge reminder for me to go like, man, like there is a dream in there, and like there's something that I feel drawn towards, and just to like charge at that thing, like whatever it is and however unknown it is, just to keep going in that direction, and not to feel like it has to make sense to anybody else.
Totally. A part of that is probably just because you're looking through your own eyes, and that if it might seem like my dream doesn't get challenged and doesn't have obstacles, that's not true really at all. I mean, there's so many heartbreaks that I have where I
don't mean that it doesn't have obstacles.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, but hear me out.
Yeah.
But I think as well that because your band started when you were 18 and you didn't have an older brother who was in the music industry.
Right.
Whereas my band put out our first record when I was 26, and we'd been playing in Toronto for 6 years. So it kind of really had come to a head. It really solidified, and there was a strength there. But then also seeing you even though a lot of your career, there were times when you were pretty distant from me because you were kind of in the midst of it. You were out just, touring all over the damn place. And I just thought, you were whatever. You were being certainly pulled in a lot of different directions when you were in your early 20s and things had just kind of started.
Oh my God, that's shit.
And you were just kind of establishing like, okay, what's Tokyo Police Club? And it's kind of what I'm going through now, I guess.
Yeah, but you get to be an adult doing it as well.
Well, yeah. But you were really mature for your age, though. So give yourself some credit there. But what I was going to say, what I'm trying to get at, without getting terribly distracted by
anyways,
complicated and long history we have with each other.
We both know we're cool.
But what I'm trying to say is that I think that I learned from your successes, and I think I learned from your mistakes as well.
Yeah.
And you always, every time I would ask you for advice, David, what about this, contract somebody wants me to sign? David, what about this? I don't know, like whatever. What would I ask you in the early days, like when it was slim pickings of opportunities for Dilly Dally? But you would always, just no matter what, any question I ever asked about kind of, how can I get as big as your band? Like, why is my band not? Sure. Or any advice, right? You would always just reinstill in me the message that like I just had to be true to myself, and that obviously I could see through you and your experience that this is possible. It's not a stupid dream. It isn't stupid and naive, really, to think that you can have some kind of a career in music. It was possible. And I think you always taught me, if you just make good music, like, I don't think you had any other advice than that, because that was all you really knew.
I know. It seems so like
you just have to like make good music.
Isn't it weird how that seems like not the point sometimes? You're like, oh, why am I putting all this energy into these songs when I should be like...
It doesn't feel like it's the point, especially when, I'm scrolling through my Instagram sometimes and going, oh, well, that band's big because that girl's really like a model or something, or that band's big because... they had that producer on their record.
Yeah.
It's like...
I mean, I've had the exact same,
all of those like little jealousies and insecurities. Totally. Really, at the end of the day, like, if you put the work in and you make good music, like, good shit's gonna happen. And
it's like working at the music is the only antidote for jealousy and insecurity. Once you're working on shit, you're just like, cool, I'm doing it. So whatever, I'm trying.
Do you feel like you're at a point with your music where you're like, I don't really care what people think about it?
No. I wish I was there. Like, I want people to like it, but I feel like it's more like there's certain people. It's just like shifted a bit. It's like I feel
it's different kinds of people.
Yeah, it's like
you
people
want
who've
to
like been with
now.
us, and like I don't know what they're just people who've like been around. I still want them to feel like they can connect to
That's
this.
True.
And I can go make some.
Do you think, since you, of course, I remember when you were a teenager and you were an ultimate, obsessive fanboy about the bands that you loved, in the same way that I was also an obsessive fangirl about the bands I loved. Do you feel like musicians owe something to their fans to put out sincere music?
I don't know about to your fans. Like, I just feel like I don't know, this is kind of, I guess maybe kind of preachy, but like,
Preach, brother.
Preach it. I don't know. It's just like when you hear something that's really true, like when you hear something that just resonates as like, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to like stay true to me and all that shit. And like, yeah, I guess what people can do whatever they want. I feel like I owe it to the world to make sure that I put out like stuff that is actually true to me and not just something that's like sex and drugs and I'm cool and yeah, or not something that's just like, oh shit, like better get like a sync, like I'll just put some jazz on this one and like everything that's out there. Also, I want people.
Do you mean a jazz master or some jazz music?
I mean like some hand claps and like
Oh, some like
some
frills,
like commercially
some
sounding
frills.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and like obviously my music has so many hand claps in it, but like I want people to like it. But
No, but
for
David,
the right
you did the hand
trueness.
claps. You did the hand claps back when they were cool.
That's like we're just talking
we
about
take a
copying the stuffed
moment?
animals. It's like that's
Yes.
people biting my shit.
But, you had to swallow that pill a long time ago.
Oh my god, but we
And
bit so much stuff. So
maybe
it's fine.
we're here on this podcast showing off about the stuffed animals we
You've
had and how cool they were, how good we are at drawing dinosaurs. Because
Look, what about like our Jurassic Park stuffed animals? Because I had the raptor named Elvis. And tell everyone about your Triceratops because this part's amazing.
okay, this is why I didn't want to do the interview with my brother.
Oh,
No, I'm
really?
kidding.
We're going. This is off the
joking.
record, everybody.
No, I'm joking.
What was your Triceratops called when you were a kid?
Well, first of all, the Triceratops was not like a cute Triceratops.
It
It was
was
like a very realistic looking,
Yes.
hardly a soft stuffed animal.
totally.
Like there was no fluff or anything. And it showed all the scales on it
Totally.
in detail in print. I think it was like an official Jurassic Park.
Yeah, it was like from the scene in the movie where Dr. Ellie Sattler has to go and dig through the dino poo. And then Jeff Goldblum says, dino doo-doo. And then she's like, I'm going to get some lunch. And he's like, make sure to wash your hands first.
Wow, this is a hardcore tangent right now. Hardcore dino tangent. That didn't really
Do you want
work
to
so
go back to music?
My Triceratops name was Sarah. Yes, let's go back to music.
Wait, I thought it was Rebecca.
Oh, okay. Rebecca. That's true.
That was so
No, you
badass.
remembered. Okay, yeah, Rebecca.
I love that.
And I would dress them up in dresses and you would get upset.
Really?
Yeah. What's another question? Were you going to ask me something?
What's your favorite guitar to play?
I don't care. Like, honestly, the closest one to me is the answer.
Yeah. Oh, remember the keyboard we had with all the demo songs in it when we were kids? And it had like all the instrumental demos you could press and it would be like...
I remember there was one for I Shot the Sheriff.
And it was sick.
And it was lit. And then there was one for Bob Moran.
Yes. And I remember I had just gotten the Lego Space Shuttle and I was like flying it around being like... And it was like... It was pretty fun.
We had a pretty good childhood.
We had a great childhood.
It's pretty crazy. I remember one time saying to Dad, as a little girl, I remember I was real little, and I said, I'm so happy. I don't remember ever not being happy. I'm just so happy, Dad, all the time.
That's amazing.
And then Dad looked down at me and was like, that's really special. And he was like, I spent a lot of my adulthood trying to unlearn my childhood. He was like, that's really awesome that you actually don't have to do that. Like that we're here talking about our childhood.
I think that's
like,
the art of mom and dad is like they created something officially new when they came to Canada.
I think they came here out of romance and out of, this blind faith in like the world in a way. And they just kind of threw themselves into it and wanted to give their kids a fresh start. And yeah, it's like that classic like immigrant story, I guess, which is like, we'll go turn nothing, no education, no like post secondary school education or whatever. Like,
it was just like the right time and
no
place.
one in
and
our
like,
family, in the monk says, well, for like me and David and both our parents like don't have any degrees or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we've always felt really lucky.
We're lucky people. We are super lucky people.
Felt really fortunate. And I feel, like throughout my life, I've really gravitated towards people who haven't had that kind of an upbringing because I've just really wanted to show people that there's still beauty in the world and shit. And
yeah,
I think that's why my music gravitates a bit more towards punk stuff because I've always kind of been attracted to that chaos.
that's always been like your tribe more like
yeah.
definitely
peeps who are going through shit.
Well, and it's like, I guess we both gravitate towards like creative people and stuff like that. But I love hanging out with your crew. And since I moved back to Toronto, it's been like great.
Well, you've always gravitated towards nerds.
Yeah, I'm a proud nerd.
You're a proud nerd.
Yeah.
And nerds are also outcasts as well as punks.
Well, actually, I think another thing is like our whole family experience in Canada was like we were outside the culture. Like when I started playing hockey, like, and I was 15, it was like super weird. And I don't know, we didn't have it hard. Like we weren't like discriminated against or anything, but we were sort of outsiders
we were
looking
white
in.
AF.
Yeah.
It's not the typical immigrant experience when you think about it through that sense, that we still have like white ass privilege coming to Canada, and that is true. But I think we did always feel a bit special because we had Irish parents, and they fully made us feel special. We felt like the family felt like we didn't have to go by all the rules of what everyone else in the neighborhood was doing.
Everyone was making up their own rules.
Yeah. It's pretty lit. It was a really special time. And it's something that I was talking to Mom on the phone today, and I was telling you about. It was just so relaxing talking to her and being like,
Mom's in a great spot.
Did you do the crossword today? And
yeah, it
was just really peaceful in contrast to my really stressful pre-campaign.
You know what else is hilarious? They're like so proud of both of us, and it comes out in this way where they're like when you guys were out with like Soar and shit, it was like, oh, like isn't Dilly Dally just doing great? And Dave, don't forget, we still love Tokyo Police Club.
Oh and my God, yeah, they would. Anytime they shower us anytime they shower us with love, it's like, but you as well.
It's still like a lot of good songs there too. And
oh my God, yeah. Yeah, they are our biggest fans.
Proud. They're super proud. Yeah,
they are.
How do you guys feel in the podcast world? Are you feeling cool? I think that's it, guys.
Whatever. I think we're chill.
Okay, we both have albums coming out this fall. We should just say that.
Sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah. We both have albums coming out, which we didn't collaborate on musically, but we
supported each other.
Moral support.
There would be no. I'm going to say this. I'm going to put on the record. Love. There wouldn't be no TPC, the new Tokyo Police Club album without you, Katie. Like definitely
100% right back at you, bro. We did collaborate on an ambient.
Yes.
On an ambient noise album, which we don't know when it's coming out or what it's called, but we did it.
It was like a creative
exercise.
We took a creative break for ourselves in the middle of our writing process and booked out a studio, and we turned every speaker on and plugged every guitar and vibraphone in and everything and turned all the mics on. We made like I think it's like an hour of music, and we spent a weekend making this noise record.
Yeah, and I think both of us were feeling really lost at the time.
Yeah, it was a turning point for me.
It was a turning point for me as well, I think, in my writing process for the record, because I suddenly felt so confident, so much more confident with guitar pedals and noise and being more like, I don't know, like not as stuck in the same creative box of Dilly Dally. It helped me be like, whoa, like kind of the same feeling as when we got that keyboard when we were 8 years old,
right?
And we were like, whoa, what does this button do? What does that button do? It reminded me of that, except I'm 29 now, and we were in the studio and using all this gear that I'd never used and trying to make instruments not sound like instruments.
It was great. And also, I wasn't living in Toronto at the time, so it was really nice for me to come back and like connect and like be in a familiar space with you. And like, yeah, I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool to send that music to...
Let's send it to somebody.
Talkhouse.
Let's do it.
I mean, imagine this interview was like laced with like those weird sounds and shit.
That would be awesome. And really spooky.
That would be so trippy.
That would give it like a really trippy vibe.
It would be like, we had the best time growing up. Like,
we were like,
spare a shekel for next leper. Yeah, seriously.
Okay, cool. Okay, Love you guys. Ambient music to come. And thanks for listening to us.
Katie, Dave, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Thank you also to Dynalone Records in Toronto for recording today's conversation, and to our producer, Mark Yoshizumi. Talkhouse's theme song is composed and performed by The Range. Talkhouse's intern is
Hallie Hewitt.
Listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe to the show. Upcoming conversations include Jawbreaker's Blake Schwarzenbach chopping it up with Chef Graham Elliott. The chopping it up was not a joke there. Tierra Whack with Nnamdi Ogbanaya, Steve Albini with Devo's Jared Casal, and Nico Case with Eric Bachman.
Okay, stick around because here comes the world premiere of the mysterious Track 24 from David and Katie Monk's ambient side project, which has no name and no title, never before heard anywhere but on Talkhouse.